Well, in the church, Easter is a time of great celebration. So every year, when we tell Easter Bible stories, I keep feeling surprised because one after another, they tell of people who are scared, doubting, sad, hesitant, which I know makes sense. Many of you, for example, who have had vaccines have told me that you feel different, lighter, hopeful, and yet your world is much the same, still scared, hesitant, sad, doubting. Nadia Bolz-Weber is a Lutheran pastor from the United States. She recently shared this prayer. Dear God, I know I was just complaining about waiting my turn to get the vaccine, but now that I've got mine, this part also feels tricky. So I have some Easter-related questions, God. I'm wondering, that one dawn so many years ago, when Jesus came out of his own tomb, did he step haltingly toward the light, or did he run? Did he know who he was right away, or did that take a minute? Did he harbor resentments about his faltering friends, or was he free? I'm asking because many of us are stepping into the first light of a post-pandemic dawn, and one minute I want to run full speed, and the next minute I'm unable to move. If I talk too much about what was lost, I feel like a bummer. But if I talk at all about the unexpected gifts, I feel like I'm callous. And I'm not sure I can ever be who I was before. But I'm also not totally sure who everyone else is now either. I don't know if you can relate to that or not. Some of us are still in the waiting our turn phase. Others of us have had a single dose now. A few of us are fully vaccinated at this point, but in Manitoba, we are apparently just entering the third wave. So I think that Easter stories that are full of mixed feelings are exactly what we need to hear these days. This year, when I heard the story, I focused immediately on the fact that other than Thomas, Jesus' friends are in lockdown, hiding out. And I wonder if you have felt like you are hiding out these days. We can make the obvious links to pandemic life and staying home. But staying home isolates more of us than others. And some of us hide out by being there, but some of us hide out by leaving there. I think there is much about life that shuts us down or closes us up. From scratchy interactions with loved ones to watching the news. It can all send us into hiding from each other. And I'm not sure what makes you feel afraid, what shuts you down, what makes you feel like hiding right now. It could be financial. We're in tax season. It could be your job or people at your job. It might be political systems and decisions, close to home or further afield. It could be fights in your family. Maybe it's your health or lack of health. Maybe you don't want to hear what the doctor has to say about the latest tests. Maybe you've been using the pandemic to avoid getting something looked at or facing some other responsibility or obligation. Perhaps you'd like to escape the expectations of others, or perhaps yourself. Is there something you don't want to have to go into? You don't want to have to explain to others in case they're going to judge you for it? Or it might be just because someone else who you loved left you, broke your heart, betrayed you, died. As much as there are countless reasons to hide, we have just as many different ways of hiding. Sometimes it's literal, like not getting out of bed because you just can't face the world. or not answering the door or the phone. A couple of days ago, a Winnipeg teacher posted on Twitter, "Today was definitely one of those come home from school and cry in the car in the garage for 20-minute Fridays." The car was her hiding place. And it might be because of grief or physical pain, it might be emotional or intellectual, whether it's anxiety or depression, or completely disabling things like panic or social anxiety disorders. The physical and emotional symptoms can make us feel like we need to hide ourselves away. Unless that we think our hiding is only physical or literal. Think about some of the other ways that we hide, that we don't let ourselves be seen. As we get used to looking at people with their face masks on, we may find that it's easier to hide other parts of ourselves from others. Mask or no mask, sometimes when we are with others, we try to show them what we think they want to see, rather than the truth of ourselves that we imagine no one would want to like or love, rather than all these feelings we have that are not bright and cheerful and happy. We often call it being strong or staying strong. Being strong can also be a way of hiding. And others of us focus on our tasks, what we can do. We spend all of our time distracting ourselves, trying to do things just so. Not that we can do anything perfectly, but we try. You wouldn't think that trying not to make mistakes would be a way of hiding, but it really can be. And I'm not talking about self-improvement or striving for quality. No, this is when we're trying to do things absolutely correct or look perfect so that people don't judge us or blame us. When we worry so much about what other people will think, that we're constantly trying to live up to other people's expectations. Or we can leap on that pendulum between trying to get it perfect and then giving up and not even trying at all because we can't possibly succeed. Procrastination, avoidance. It's a way we hide from the hard questions and from others, sometimes a way we hide from ourselves. Another way we hide is we find ways not to feel whatever is happening among us, to avoid the painful things. As some people say, take the edge off. Find ways to numb our feelings, and there is a lot of ways that we do that. You can use drugs, prescription or illegal. You can use painkillers. You can use alcohol. You can use tobacco. You can use food. You can use caffeine. You can use sugar. You can use TV or video games, computer or a smartphone. You can hide from whatever parts of your life you don't want to face in the moment. And we know that over the past year, a lot of people have been using a lot of those kind of coping techniques. Well, I could go on and on and on. We could spend all day talking about how we hide, when we hide, why we hide. And then the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic just adds to the layers and the possibilities, the complexities of hiding and not hiding. So you may be able to notice a few ways that this happens in your life, or maybe lots of ways. I think it is true for all of us in some way or other. So while we may not be people whose friend was just crucified on a hillside, while we may not be people who live in the Middle East in a time of Roman occupation, I think we do understand what it is like to be behind locked doors, frankly, because we're afraid. It is the way of our world, particularly right now. So, that's cheery, eh? Well, what if we looked again at the story? to see if there is a wisdom word for us in all of our hiding places. What we see in this story is that when his friends are hiding, Jesus appears to them, and the first thing he says is, "Peace be with you." The first message to people in fear is not, "Don't be afraid." We often see that in the Bible, but not this time. Behind these doors, Jesus doesn't deny their feelings, but actually acknowledges them. He knows there are legitimate things to be afraid of. And so what he says in their fear is, "Peace be with you." Maybe that's something we all need to hear. If we're afraid, if we're anxious, if we're hiding, it's completely understandable. It doesn't reflect on your value as a human being. But peace be with you. Then, Jesus shows them his hands and his side. What I see and hear in that action is a great deal of grace and patience with all the doubts and all the questions. He does not demand unthinking loyalty. He lets the same questions be asked again and again and again. And in the middle of all that, never hides his own woundedness. Sometimes we hide to avoid hard questions or see pain, and sometimes we hide so that people don't see ours. And Jesus shows his friends that it's okay to be open to the doubts and the uncertainty. We don't need to be defensive. We don't need to have all the answers. In fact, sometimes there is more faith in a good question than a pat or recited answer. And then he says again, "Peace be with you." It's okay. You are okay. But you might want to stop hiding. Because as God sent me, I'm sending you. And this is the Easter word to us. It's time to deal with our hiding. Whatever it is. It's not a command. It's an invitation. It's a release. It is a freedom word. We are free to deal with our hiding. As we have often been reminded, courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to do it while we're afraid. And so in some cases, dealing with our hiding will take some courage, but it won't be nearly as hard as we think. We merely have to take that small step to show someone what's in our heart, even though we're nervous about it. We need to act carefully, but we should always act carefully, which is why in some cases the process of unlocking the door and revealing ourselves and dealing with the places we have locked ourselves will need time, hard work, lots of help and prayers and support, and probably some professional help along the way. But this story understands that too. Jesus' very next words show how much he understands we need help with these things. Receive the Holy Spirit, he says. You're not on your own in this. There's room for all the confusion. There's room for the uncertainty. In fact, you'll notice that Jesus has come back a week later. The doors are still shut. Nothing has changed. The people are all still there, even though for a week now they've had this experience. But the doors are no longer locked, just shut. They're starting to be open to the presence of Christ in their midst. It's going to take some time, but we know his followers are going to figure it out. They will not always and only hide. Most of us have been saying for, a year now that we can't wait to come out of hiding? But the truth is, we're often reluctant to give up our hiding places, those places we go to keep ourselves safe, even as they hinder our ability to live. So the question for us is, mid-pandemic, post-pandemic, how can we still embrace the life that is ours to live. This is what Easter hope is for. And until we can truly come out of our hiding, remember this: peace be with you. Amen.